once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here today with Justin. Juz, how you doing, mate?
I am good, Gav. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Going into the final day with a chance to win a title, can't argue with that. But it could have been a lot better, couldn't it, after Tuesday night? I didn't really expect anything from them out of Tuesday night, and it ended up we got nothing out of them. They did a little bit better than expected, though, didn't they? They got your hopes up for a little bit. You know me. I always say I won't watch Man City games. Well, this game, I kind of got drawn into it, right? Because I wanted to see what the atmosphere was going to be like. I was just intrigued to see how many of them showed up, what the atmosphere was going to be like. So I started watching it, and I couldn't turn it off. I just couldn't turn it off until basically I didn't watch the penalty. As soon as the penalty was awarded, I'd turn the TV off, took the dogs outside and just shut it off. But I couldn't turn it off. I had to watch.
Yeah, I did the, check the score thing, and after it made it past about 25 minutes and it was still scoreless, I was like, I'll throw it on. Why not? And I did. I started to get my hopes up, around halftime, just a little bit. And then, of course, 6 minutes later, the big Norwegian kind of crushed all my hopes. I do think Spurs played all right. I didn't expect much, but I don't expect anything from West Ham. So I guess my last bit of hope was kind of on them still. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the way it shakes out, right? But I mean, I'm still really proud of the team. What we got. Most goals scored, least goals conceded, our highest.
No, City have scored more than us. City scored 91, we've scored 89.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They took the last couple of weeks with their 4s and 5s. They've overtook us.
Damn it, I didn't realize.
Yeah, they overtook us in that. But I mean, that doesn't matter now. Just talking about the last day, if West Ham did pull off a miracle draw, they can't get above us on goal difference, obviously, unless they beat West Ham, in which case it's all futile anyway.
Yeah.
So at least there's that. Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you, other than the Argentinian Mustafi, who seemed to sit on his fucking arse all game. Other than that, and I don't know how he didn't clear Foden out. Do you know what I mean? Like 9 times out of 10, he fucking clears him out on the halfway line. Instead, he just lets him turn and run. That's ridiculous. But yeah, other than that, I thought Spurs put up like I said, they gave you hope. I guess that's Spurs, right? So they give you a bit of hope and they pull it away. The one moment, obviously, is history's worst monster, Son, missing that golden chance. Did he mean to miss that?
I don't think so, Gav. I mean, obviously, like we can't really know for sure, but I just think to get to this level of sport, you're gonna have ridiculous competitive edge, and I just can't see a professional. I mean, they still had Champions League on the line. I don't think he missed on purpose, but it did look a bit egregious.
The only reason that I might disagree with you is because Champions League wasn't on the line at that point. They were 1-0 down and a draw wasn't doing them any good. And I wonder if he actually missed that chance when the Villa equaliser went in against Liverpool on Monday night. Because the worst result for Spurs and their fans was a draw. That was the worst result. They win, they have still got a chance. Champions League football. They lose, we lose the title. They draw, they're putting the title back in our hands for nothing. So the minute that final whistle went at Villa Park, I just thought a draw in this game, in the Spurs City game, I thought it was just off the table. At that point, like I said to Pass when we were on here the other day that I thought if it was 0-0 or 1-1 at 90 minutes, Spurs would have just pulled the goalkeeper because a draw was just no good whatsoever. None.
Sorry. Yeah. That's a good point. You kind of put a little more thought into it than I did. I just, like I said, I just have a hard time believing a player at that level would purposely miss. But that's a solid point, I guess.
It was
I
just
mean,
a strange finish, wasn't it, Just? Because if you watch that,
yeah, it was.
99 times out of 100, he goes low to the goalkeeper's left and slots it in at the near post.
Hmm.
This time, he decides to go straight across the goalkeeper where there was no room. He
Yep.
doesn't strike it cleanly and just puts it straight into his midriff. So, I don't want to indulge in conspiracy theories here or not. I just didn't think that game was going to end in a draw. They were one down with 89 minutes on the clock at that point, 88 minutes on the clock, maybe. So I don't know. It is what it is.
And he like pretty regularly outperforms his XG too. So it's not like he's a bad finisher. You know what I mean?
No, he's a good finisher.
Yeah,
He's a terrible
yeah,
human being, but he's a good finisher.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about I guess we got to get into the off the pitch talk for Spurs as well. Pretty embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, I mean the aftermath, as Dr. Dre would say. Um, it was a strange atmosphere from the beginning, right? Like it was silent. They didn't start off by actively cheering for Man City, but they weren't cheering for anything. Like it was just dead silent in there. I saw Ange having a ruck with a fan behind the dugout who apparently told him to asked him why they were actually trying. I saw a couple of arguments with fans in the stands where one fan was obviously cheering for City and the other fan was like, "What are you doing? You're a fucking home fan, you nonce." So there was a bit of that, and then of course there was the guys doing the Poznan after the goal.
Yep.
And then you've got Angie's reaction to it, Judge. So, so in his press conference, if anyone hasn't seen this, he said, I'm not going to do the Aussie accent, as tempted as I am. I think in the last 48 hours has revealed to me that the foundations are fairly fragile, mate. That's just what I think. I think the last 48 hours have revealed a fair bit to me. That's all right. It just means I've got to go back to the drawing board with some things. He was asked directly whether this is a reference to the club or its supporters, and he said, outside, inside, everywhere. It's just been an interesting exercise. I said to you guys in the chat on Sunday and Monday that I thought this game could tear them apart. It seems like that's exactly what it's done.
Yeah, I mean, we already hit on the embarrassing aspect, and I thought that the whole the Poznan and celebrating with the City fans was just, I mean,
it's cringeworthy, isn't it? Let's be fair, it's cringeworthy. And what I said about Spurs after the North London derby was they're not a serious club, right? That's what I said, and I said that at the time because they defend like an under-8s team. Right, that's why I said it. I didn't say it for any other reason, just because they defend like an under-8s team. They're never going to win anything. They're not a threat to anybody because they don't ever win anything. But the way they behaved then, was just like you're not a serious club at all. You're not a professional club, and I get not wanting us to win the league, but just don't go. Just don't go. You can't go to the stadium and cheer against your own team. You cannot celebrate a defeat. You can't do that. And I get where Angie's coming from with this. And Angie's the third manager in 3 years now, or 4 years, to figure this shit out. Mourinho was first. He said that the one club in his career that he hasn't won anything and the one he has no affection for is Tottenham. Conte said that you can see why they've never won anything in 20 years. He wins everywhere he goes, but he can't win here. And now this from Ange. I mean, this is systemic within that club, and I think Angie's really regretting taking that job. And I think if he got a chance to jump, he would.
Well, it's the history of the Tottenham, mate.
It is the history of the Tottenham.
Yeah, I think one of the things that cracked me up. I was doing a decent bit of research into all this today, and one of the things that just, I mean, I find so ridiculous is the Tottenham Supporters Trust. Did you see this? They said they'd be willing to have a sit down with Ange and explain the rivalry between the clubs.
Yeah,
this is a guy
the former Celtic manager Andrew's taken charge of multiple Old Firm derbies.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I just can't believe. I mean, the whole thing is it'd be sad if it was anybody else, but yeah, I just, and I have a decent bit of respect for Ange too. I mean, he's a pretty straight shooter. I've enjoyed some of his press conferences, and I think he's done an okay job there with what he has, I guess. But no real hate towards the man. I definitely feel for him a little bit in this situation, and I agree with you. I don't think I saw somebody make a good point. If Liverpool didn't get Slot and they put a contract on the table for Ange, he'd be gone
Oh,
today.
100%. 100%. I mean, and don't forget, Man United ain't settled on a new manager yet.
Yep.
There's no decision been made on Ten Hag. Um, I mean, personally, I'm not sure that Angie's that great a manager, but
Yeah.
all I'm saying is that if one of those clubs come in for him, and I think Ajax is still looking for a new manager. I don't know whether he'd actually want to leave the Premier League after fighting so hard to get in it.
Yeah.
But I do think if a really big club comes into him, I think Juventus are going to be looking for a manager in the summer as well. And if they did come in for him, then I think he'd be off at the first opportunity because he's seen firsthand what that club is about. And I think all of the managers in recent times have seen what that club is about. And it's what you are. It's just what you are.
Yeah. I mean,
I think
I
the
don't
worst
know.
part about it, Juz, is the fans are one thing, right? But I believe you saw this earlier on too. The Athletic ran a story
Yeah.
saying that a Spurs staff member actually said to Ange he should play the youth team. And Ange was apparently fucking furious. Now, whether you're serious or not, I don't give a fuck if it's done with a laugh, with a smile. You can't say that. You cannot say that to a manager. I would be shocked if heads don't roll there in the
Yeah.
summer. I think you're going to see, if Ange is to stay, I reckon you're going to see 10 members of the backroom staff, be them coaches or hitmen, whoever it is working behind the scenes. I reckon
Yeah.
you're going to see a big change because he's going to want to purge that club. Because if he don't, he can't go forward.
Yeah. And I mean, they need it too. I mean, I've thought for a long time. Well, I think it's pretty much a fact that they've kind of got a small club mentality. And I mean, this is just completely proven it in my opinion. And yeah, when it's down to the staff, that's a whole different ball game. And I think that they need they're going to have a big clear out. I mean, I think they'll have to players and support staff. I saw it translated a little bit to the players on the pitch. Did you see like Bentancur's reaction?
When he came off?
Yeah, when he came off.
Yeah, he was furious. Even worse, did you see history's worst monster, Son's reaction at the end when he was hugging and dancing with Pep Guardiola?
I didn't know.
You
I
didn't
didn't
see that? Well, you
Mm-mm.
might want to go back and look at that, and then you might revise your revise your stance on whether he meant that or not.
Oh man.
The only real bit of controversy from this game, I mean, I guess the biggest bit of controversy is why do you trip Jeremy Doku? Just let him run and hammer the ball into the stands like he always does. I don't know why you're trying to tackle him. Just let him run out of play. But I think the biggest bit of controversy was on the first goal, whether De Bruyne was offside or not when that ball went through. Apparently, they didn't even check it on VAR, which I'm not sure why you wouldn't check it. I don't know if he was offside or not. Apparently, they said that they checked it after the game. A whole lot of good that does, and that he was onside. But what else are you going to say? They're not going to say that they checked it after the game and he wasn't onside. I mean, like I said, quite frankly, whether he's on or off doesn't really matter. What do you make of them not even checking it?
Yeah, I think that's really odd. And I saw it and I even questioned it, like when it happened live.
I mean,
like,
it was tight enough to deserve a look, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I know we're gonna get into this, but I mean, it's just another example of what the hell is the point of VAR if it's not VAR, if it's not even looking at this kind of stuff,
Well, they're picking and choosing what they're looking at, and
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's not you either look at it all or you don't look at any of it. I don't get this. So let's move on to that, Judge, because that's enough from Tuesday night. We all know what happened. We all know what it means for us. So Wolves have triggered a vote among Premier League clubs about whether VAR will stay or not. VAR, bear in mind, is not goal line technology. That's something completely different. So that is not in question. Is it semi-automated offsides that the Premier League are going to do next year?
Yeah.
I don't know whether this falls under that remit or not. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm not sure whether it does or not. Just what do you think about, firstly, Wolves triggering this vote, and secondly, what's likely to happen?
We discussed this a little bit today, and I think the idea of VAR, I was ready for it. I think I think especially as Arsenal fans, we've definitely had a lot of controversy. Well, I know all clubs do, but just talking about the club we support, but in its current state, in the inconsistencies, the not wanting to hurt your mate's feelings by calling out a wrong call, it's completely pointless to me, Gaff, and it saps passion. It takes too long. There's awkward breaks in the game. You brought up momentum, like scoring a goal and having it taken back. All these things are negative, and I don't think it really does anything positive at this point.
Yeah, my views on it are well known. I detest VAR. I never wanted it in the first place for a lot of these reasons, that I just didn't think it could work. It's not a game with natural breaks after every play, which means you can't just stop and replay a game. To your point there with the momentum, what I was saying with the momentum, it's not just having a goal disallowed, because there's always the chance of that. But if the flag goes up, the goalkeeper puts the ball down and takes a goal kick, there's 15 seconds in between the goal being chalked off and the game restarting, and we all carry on.
Yeah.
When there's a VAR check, we're looking at 4 minutes sometimes, and the stadium falls dead, and it completely kills everything. So they're actually interfering with games by doing this. Most of the time when they go to these checks, the referee is confirmed to have been right. So we're sat there for 3 minutes for no reason whatsoever. The laws are subjective. This isn't a game where this is a foul, this isn't a foul, this is handball, this isn't handball. That's not the way this game works. And, someone said to me today, well, what they should do is just take all the ambiguity out of it. So what? Every time a ball touches someone's hand, it's a penalty. And then you're going to have people getting near the penalty area just trying to slam the ball into people's hands. And I don't know if you've seen this, Judge. This is a little bit unrelated, but similar thing. Do you know what the percentage of penalties scored in the Premier League is this season? Bear in mind that the average has always been about 77%, hence it being 0.77 XG. Have you seen the numbers for this season?
No, I haven't.
92% of penalties are being scored.
Oh.
So you're basically allowing someone to hammer the ball into someone's hand from a few feet away and get 0.92 of a goal for it. I don't see that as being feasible, and I don't see how VAR can possibly work in a game that requires common sense to ref it. Like, the point of these rules being written how they are is because some common sense has to be applied. This isn't a game, it isn't a non-contact sport like basketball, right? It isn't a game where the clock stops after every play like NFL. It's not a game with natural breaks after every play or every point like cricket, like tennis. I just don't see how it can possibly work. I'm absolutely fine with keeping the goal line tech and giving the semi-automated offsides a run out for next year and see how they go.
Same.
I would love them to get rid of everything else. I don't think they will. I think the Premier League are going to be leaning on the clubs hard to keep VAR, and I think the clubs will toe the line eventually. I think what they'll probably do is force some changes to VAR. I just don't know what them changes can be. Juz, have you got any idea of what changes could happen that would actually improve it? Because all I can think of is basically have less VAR. like that's the change, right? Like, the change is to have less checks. So I don't see how that helps anybody.
I've heard excuse me. I've heard a couple ideas floated around, but I got to be honest. I don't love any of them. I think they all they have a negative drawback no matter what.
The challenge one is never going to happen. So let's put that to bed now. There is never going to be 2 coaches' challenges per half or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Because if you were going to do that, a manager just throw the damn red flag after a goal and make you go back and check everything. So they're never, ever going to do that.
Yeah. I heard in this one, this suggestion that I heard, it really depends on where you find the problems with VAR, to be fair. But I've heard it really should be a completely independent council that check everything. PGMOL is not the ones doing it, so there's no biases with referees that know each other. But even then, I can't see it, Gaff. I mean, they're never going to relinquish that control.
I agree. And, you know, I think we both agree that the idea of PGMOL is flawed, right? Forget
Oh yeah.
VAR, just the idea that the referees are controlled by a separate body to the Premier League is kind of insane. You know, I've heard people say, well, the problem isn't the tech, the problem's the people using the tech. There's always going to be people using the tech. There's no way to do it. This isn't Skynet. We're not in Terminator 2. There's always going to be people behind the tech. There has to be. And even if you took PGMOL out of it and had, let's say, independent, let's use the word independent people checking the screens. First off, they would have to be as well versed in the laws of the game as the referee is. Secondly, it's still subjective. Whichever way you look at it, it's subjective. So it's how they see something. We've had 3 incidents in the last few weeks that we all said, man, that's a red card. None of them were given, right? You had the one on Saka above his knee by Christie. You had Kilman on Havertz, and then Jackson on Tomiyasu, right? They should all have been red cards. None of them were given. Someone has looked at them and said that doesn't meet the threshold. For 50% of the people out there, you go, that's insane. For 50% of the people out there, you say, well, that's right. That's why these calls can never be right. And if there is never a right, you are never going to get it 100%.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, well said. And again, you know, we've said this before, but if they're not checking stuff like that, like at least to, protect these players, you know, enhance the security on the players, you know, for potential leg breakers and stuff like that, what is it doing? You know, and that's where I'm at. I think the cons far outweigh the pros of VAR. I think, I can't come up with really any solution to make it better realistically. I hope it votes, I hope it votes down, but we'll see. I kind of tend to agree with you that they'll keep it, but.
Yeah, the only thing I think you can justifiably want to keep it for is exactly those sort of challenges that we just said about that went wrong, right? Like player welfare is the reason for it. I mean, I think we've all figured out now that it's not going to stop diving, right? It's just not going to stop diving. You know, I will sit here and tell you till I'm blue in the face that penalty Kai Havertz got the other week was never a penalty. It's a dive. It should never be a penalty. But then I believe you thought it was a penalty, and other people have told me that it was a penalty.
That one.
So,
I remember.
you know, so we're never gonna agree on this. And then you get the line, well, there's contact, so it's a penalty, and then I'll say, but it's a contact sport. You're allowed to make some sort of contact. And you'll say, but the goalkeeper stopped his run, and I'll say, but it wasn't part of his nature. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
We've figured out that isn't going to be solved, right? We all know that is not going to be solved. To be honest with you, even these offsides, it's not really. I mean, it's corrected some decisions, but it's not corrected all. I mean, they're saying that we've gone from, I think, was it 88% correct decisions to 96% correct. I know they said that now they're getting 96% right. Show me the proof.
Yeah.
Show me the proof. Yeah. Like, where's that number come from? As far as I can see, 9 out of 10 of these calls stay with the call on the field anyway. Show me the calls, because let me tell you something. I can pick out ones that you're probably telling me you got right, where I'm telling you got wrong. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there's refs themselves will argue with each other. You had, was it Clattenburg who was in charge at who they hired at Nottingham Forest and then had to sack again because he was a fucking muppet? Well, he's sitting there, he's a professional ref, and he's arguing with other professional refs. So there's refs disagreeing with each other. This is the point, and this was one of the things about VAR as well. People talk about consistency. You can't have consistency in looking at a game subjectively if you've got 2 different people doing it, right? That's the point of sending the ref to the screen and not having the VAR make the decisions, because you've got a ref on the field who's reffing one way, a ref off the field that's reffing another way. You can't have consistency if you're doing that. One of them has to ref the game, right?
Yeah, and then they never send the referees to the screen to look at it ever. Like, I mean, not ever, but they rarely ever do.
Sometimes it's... and then we're told that they can't issue yellow cards from it, and then I'm told, well, if they send the ref to the screen, the ref can actually, at his discretion, give a yellow card. The VAR just can't. Like, it's insane, and I just don't think it can be. I don't think it can be fixed by tweaking the rules around it. I think you just have to accept that it doesn't work and get rid of it. But we won't.
Yeah. I think you're right at this point. It's not going to work. I mean, even in going a step further than VAR. I mean, you remember the ref that, or they forgot to draw the line on a potential offside. Like, how?
Yeah, the Ivan Toney goal. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah,
You know.
no, it's crazy. All right, well, Jazz, before we get the second half, which we're going to devote to Championship Sunday because I think it deserves it. We're just going to touch on a couple of transfer rumors real quick because we're getting into silly season now, right?
Yeah, we
So,
are.
the first one, Sam Dean says that Benjamin Sesko's wanted by Arsenal. It's a link we've heard come up quite a few times. He's a player that I think we both like. Um, He's the new part of his report today was that other clubs who were interested, including one of them was Manchester United, and I believe Chelsea were interested as well. He's saying that they now believe that Arsenal are in pole position should they want him. No official bid's gone in, but the player has basically decided that we're where he wants to go if we make the bid. How do you feel about that one?
I think striker is going to be tough no matter what. And I couldn't even tell you who my ideal number 9 would be coming in at this point. But I mean, I think he's a pretty exciting player. What's his rumored cost? Was that part of the?
So he's got a release clause. I've heard it's anywhere between 40 and 60 million. I don't know if that depends on when you buy him. Because some of these have escalators in after June 1st and all that stuff. I don't know which way, like what it is of it, but I've heard anywhere between 40 and 60, which isn't a bad price. And he's young enough where he probably wouldn't come in and command a starting forward spot, right? I would imagine that opening day of next season, if we signed him, he'd be on the bench and Kai Havertz would be up front. And you'd probably see throughout the season him come in. And then depending on how he did, would be whether he would basically stay or not. Not stay, but, stay in the team.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be our best bet to target a player like that doesn't come in as a starting striker, because I mean, we've seen the striker market. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I know we just banked
it makes sense to me. My first choice would be Alexander Isak. I don't believe that that's possible. I just don't. I don't see Newcastle selling him to us. So I just don't see that's possible.
Yeah. But I trust the hierarchy. I think they've nailed most of their signings. Even Kai Havertz and Jorginho were 2 players I was pretty unsure of that they've got right.
This is a testament to Kai Havertz too, I think, because if Kai Havertz wasn't up front with the injury concerns we've got around Gabriel Jesus, I don't think this would be a move that we'd look to make if Kai Havertz wasn't the starting centre forward. So I think that's kudos to Kai as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he's done really well since moving up top, I think.
So another rumour, Xavi Simons, the reports out of Spain say that PSG want to sell him. They're looking for 60 million. Arsenal and Barcelona are interested. Barca obviously have no more levers to pull. They've got no money. They can't sign him. This is an interesting one, Giles. I don't know how much faith I put in these rumours, but he can play anywhere across that line behind the front. Quite an exciting player, and we are obviously looking to add someone to that level of the forward line.
Yeah, I like this player. He's very technical. He can be a bit tricky. He's versatile. He's still young. I think for that price, that's about the going rate for a player like that now. So I think it's
surprised PSG are willing to let him go though, because you remember they signed him to that contract and then they loaned him at PSV. He's at, and he's had 2 very good seasons there.
It is odd, yeah.
And I think with Mbappe going, like you would think there would be room for him to come and try and make an impression. It's not a signing that I'd be against. I'd be more than happy enough to give it a go. He does. I mean, he was very good against us the other year, so it would be an exciting one.
Yeah, but that is a good point, and I think one to watch. It is really weird that they're already not only willing to listen to offers, but like actively wanting him to be sold. So, I've not heard anything about unprofessionalism or attitude. No,
it doesn't seem that way at all. It seems like he's a hardworking kid. It looks like he went to PSV. He's got his head down. He's worked. He's been really good for PSV. So I don't see any of them issues there at all. I don't know if this is just PSG need to make some splashy signings. The next one that we'll go on to is Bruno Guimaraes, who looks like he's off from Newcastle. The reason I wanted to go on to it here is that I would imagine PSG are probably the front runners for him, wouldn't you think? I just wonder if Simmons going is part of the next wave of trying to get the next lot of superstars in there, because obviously, although they're getting Mbappe's wages off, they're not actually getting any income out of Mbappe. He's going on a free.
Yep. Yeah, and they're going to be desperate, I think, for a few stars, as you said, especially with Mbappe going. He is their golden calf or whatever you want to call it. I like Bruno a lot as a player. I wanted us to sign him before he went to Newcastle. I think he'd be a really good fit in that, the other 8 opposite Odegaard and Rice.
Do you think he'd play 8 or do you think he'd play 6? Because I have a feeling he'd come in and play the 6. And I'm going to say this now, and I might whisper it because I don't really want anyone to know, because when we get linked, it makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. But I think he'd be an absolutely magnificent signing for us. I really do. I think you're absolutely right. I know you wanted him from the get-go. And I think he'd be brilliant. I just want to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's interesting, though. I guess that's another reason to sign him.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that's definitely a tick in the pro column. Is that I think he would come in and play 6, and I think he's one of the few signings out there that would come in and elevate this team instantly. I think if you put him in the 6 behind Rice and Odegaard, I think we immediately go to another level. And I don't think that there's many players out there you can say that about. We'll go on to another player in that position now that we're being heavily linked with João Neves of Benfica. I've not seen a whole ton of him. From what I know of him, he's a bit Ruben Neves-esque and not just in name. He looks like he's got a good shot on him, a good pass on him. But he's only 19 years old. There's a slight concern about his pace and about his frame, about how small he is. Obviously, he's only 19. He will fill out. I mean, I'm 43 and I'm still filling out. So it's but his contract runs until 2028. He's got 120 million euro release clause that we are not paying. No. Benfica are saying they're not going to negotiate. So I think this is one to watch, but I think this is one that's more likely a year or two down the line when Benfica are maybe willing to come to the negotiating table rather than say, pay me, bitch.
Yeah, I've looked into him a decent bit today, actually. I like the look of the player. I think everything you said is, they're valid concerns.
He looks class, doesn't he? I mean, as a footballer, he looks like a class footballer.
Yeah, and I mean, he's even got he has 3 goals and 2 assists and 32 appearances this season as a 6, which is, at least. Maybe he's got that Neves, long shot ability.
I think he does. He does. And he's probably got the dead ball ability as well, I would imagine, if he can strike a ball like that. I would imagine he does. And again, we're talking from a position where we've just seen highlights and stuff. Neither of us have watched a ton of Benfica. But he looks like a promising player. I just don't think that really is, we're looking to get over the hump. I think the players we bring in need to elevate the team. And I don't think there's a ton of them out there. And as good as this kid looks as a prospect, I don't think that's the case. I don't think he would come in and start opening day.
No, I don't either. But I do wonder if, we gave Jorginho another year. So I think the idea would kind of be to sign him, really bet him in slowly and have him.
I get that. But do you think if Partey stays, I see that more. But if Partey does go, I don't see us wanting to play Jorginho for 30 games next season. I know we've given him the contract, but I don't think the idea was for him to play all these games and let a 19-year-old spell him every now and again. I don't know. That doesn't seem to me to be optimum.
That's a good point. I guess I was factoring in that Partey would probably still be here, but yeah,
then that makes sense. If Partey's still here, that makes sense, because if Partey is here, then maybe. Although I've got my issues with Partey and the way that he's making us play at the moment, and I think Mikel would be desperate to move on from Partey, to be honest with you, for the injury concerns and for the fact that we're so fucking open when he plays. And if there's anything Mikel hates, it's conceding chances and conceding goals, Yep. So, all right, mate. Well, that'll do for now. Let's come back in the second half. We'll talk about Championship Sunday and get excited about our first final day title race for over 20 years.
Yes, sir.
All right, mate. Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz and Jazz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back into the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Jazz, for the first time since 2004, there is going to be a Premier League trophy and a Premier League stage at the Arsenal. The first time ever at the Emirates. This is something to be celebrated regardless of what happens Saturday. I think you're like me, or Sunday, sorry. You're like me. You've made your peace with the fact that this isn't going to happen this year. I'm on record and happy to be quoted saying that I think it will happen next year. But I just think you got to be so proud, right, that we've come this far.
Yeah, I really am. I think we've had a great showing. You know, we've kind of beat this to death, but you've called it the best. I think we just, we had a few too many losses in that first half of the season. But I mean, our 2024 has been unreal. I'm really proud of the team. I think we've come ridiculously far. We should be, I mean, it's really hard to top City, but I mean, we should be maybe co-favorites going into next season, I would think.
I think it'll be close. I mean, there'll be favourites, but I think it'll be close. I bet we ain't no more than 5-2. I think it's going to be. I think we'll be. They might be evens, and we might be 5-2, something like that. It's going to be close. Fun story. The last time the title and the stage were at ours and didn't get used was 1999. And so me and Moan and Imran we sat in the clock end, like 6 rows from the front of the clock end. So from where we were, you couldn't see anything other than the pitch, right? Like you look right, you look left. You can't see outside the stadium at that point. We were too low down. But I had friends who were in the North Bank upper tier, and they said when you looked out to your left where all the TV trucks and stuff park, or to your right where the TV trucks stuff parked, they could see them wheeling the stage away and packing it away into the buses. And they said it was the saddest sight, was them just wheeling away this celebration stage. So unfortunately, the likelihood is we'll probably be treated to some sort of view of them taking away the Premier League trophy and the stage. But I'm just glad to have it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal regardless. And I mean, I think it speaks to the team's quality to, I mean, we've pushed them all the way to the final day, and for 115 charges FC, that's really impressive in and of itself.
And their run's been remarkable too. Like, if you think about it, our run is insane. We're 15-1-1 before Sunday. And their run's been every bit as impressive as ours. That is kind of insane. I know we saw it a few years ago with Liverpool and City when they were chasing each other to the death, and City ended up coming out on top in that one. And they just seem to be matching each other stride for stride. We're kind of here again, and this time it's us. And so Football 365 ran an article today titled "Where It All Went Wrong for Arsenal," and I couldn't help but reply to it and say, like, where it all went wrong. 4 years ago, we were 8th. A year ago, we were playing Rob Holding at centre-half. We go into Sunday with a chance of still winning the title, and you're asking where it went wrong. What the fuck?
Yep. Yeah, the climb's been ridiculous and fast, but well planned out as well.
It's been linear, hasn't it? I think that's the thing that's most shocking about it, is that it's just been a linear upwards line, and that's not normally what happens. Normally, you see troughs, dips, highs. It hasn't been that way for us. I mean, I know you can point to the fact we fell away at the end of last season, but if you take into account season by season, this is just an upward trajectory the whole way along for the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's really insane, and I mean, almost every signing has worked out, been brilliant. It's remarkable how well the Arteta, Edu, and co have done. So, like I said, regardless, I think it's been a good season, and of course, it sucks to walk away empty-handed, but I think there's a lot to be proud of, and I want to go on record to say we did not bottle anything. I've seen that a couple times online. There's nothing to bottle.
Anyone doing that is just trolling, mate. We've won 15 of the last 17 games, and the draw, by the way, was also at the Etihad. And I saw a City fan with a picture of us behind the ball at the Etihad and saying, "Well, if you'd have gone for a win here, fella, if you'd have got a draw at our place, this would already be over."
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. You can't point at that. That's a fucking brilliant result. The same as if they'd have come away from ours with a draw, it would have been a brilliant result for them, but they didn't.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, just overall a great season. I think we all, of course, hold out hope that West Ham can do something, but it's
I mean,
is what it is, and
I think the hope really is that Man City do nothing, right? Right? Like you're not. West Ham can't beat Manchester City. West Ham can't draw with Manchester City. Manchester City can only fuck it up. And that's kind of what you're hoping. Like, you saw that on Tuesday night. Spurs played as good as they could possibly play.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough. So there's no chance that West Ham can do anything. It's just you're just hoping that City have a really, really bad day.
I really like what Moisey said when he was asked if they think they could trouble City at all in the final game, and he said, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he basically said, I think we'd struggle against their U14s.
Yeah, he said, it'd be. I think he said it'd be tough to stop. It'd be tough to stop their under-14s winning the title. I think is what. What he said. Well, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, Mikel Antonio has been saying for months that if it goes to the last day, Arsenal will win it because they're going to do City. I believe Kudus said that he wants to see his Ghanaian brother Thomas Partey lift the trophy. So, there'll be a few of them players trying. I'm just not sure how much it matters how hard they try. It's just simply about City fucking up, really. Interesting point, Juz. Premier League chief exec Richard Masters. He's going to be at the Emirates on Sunday, not at the Etihad. I guess it's probably bad optics to have him handing over the Premier League title to Manchester City, who they've charged 115 times. So I guess he'd rather hand it to us or not be there.
Well, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that yet, but I agree. It's got to be mostly about optics. I'm really curious to see how this 115 charges shakes out. I'm so cynical at this point that nothing's really going to happen to City, but at the same time, wouldn't it be like so great if they actually got handed like a decent punishment?
You know what? I kind of want to happen. Like, we get to the end of Sunday and we've beaten Everton 5-0, but Man City have won 1-0 against West Ham, so they're champions. And all of a sudden, the Stone Cold Steve Austin breaking glass sound?
Yeah.
Right? At the start of it, that comes up and Richard Masters comes strolling out on the pitch doing that Vince McMahon power walk. And he grabs the mic and announces that he's docked Manchester City 6 points and awards us the title. That's what I would love to see happen. I think that would be great TV, and I think the Premier League should strongly consider it.
Yeah, that would be incredible. So yeah, well, fingers crossed. I mean, that's probably more likely than West Ham getting a result. So
that's true. This is our only hope. Our only hope is Masters channeling his inner Stone Cold Steve Austin and walking out on the pitch and docking them points. That's what I'm hoping happens. As for what we are going to do on Sunday, because that's all we can really control. You fancy it's the same starting 11 again that we've seen for the last few days? I'm wondering a little bit. There's two changes that I could maybe see happening. One is I wouldn't be surprised to see Zinchenko come in for Tomiyasu, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jorginho come in for Partey. I think both of them have been a little bit ropey in the last few games. I know Mikel doesn't like to change a winning team, but those two changes wouldn't surprise me, especially if Zinchenko is likely to go in the summer. It wouldn't surprise me if he was given a last start.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and that's about all I can see too. I think Trossard will keep his spot. Havertz will start up top. Everybody else kind of picks themselves at that point. I
can't see any changes other than that. Like, Saka's gonna play. I mean, Jesus, he's played on one leg a few times this season, so there's no way he's missing this. Other than that, I can't see anything. Everton really shouldn't give us too many problems. Famous last words, but they are the ultimate on the beach team. We've played them last a few times and generally given them a good hide in here. we should be well capable of doing our bit here.
Yeah, I think so. It was last year that was the 5-1, or was that two?
Wasn't it the year before? Didn't we smash Wolves on the final day last season because Xhaka got a couple, and then I think the year before was the Everton one. When Martinelli, I think Martinelli scored a penalty, didn't he, against Everton? Didn't Saka let Martinelli take a penalty?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was that one. But yeah, I agree. They have literally nothing to play for, as you said. We've rolled them a few times historically on the last day. I feel pretty comfortable about it. I'm not really worried about us. But yeah, again, famous last words, like you said. I'm confident that we can get it done.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we both know that West Ham aren't getting it done. The only other thing, it's a shame that Newcastle didn't beat Manchester United on Wednesday night, because had Newcastle beaten Man United, they went into the last day of the season being able to leapfrog Tottenham if Tottenham lost at Sheffield United. Now it's only Chelsea, and I really don't want to see Chelsea finish high. But at the same time, at this point, it would be funny if Spurs missed out on Europa. Unfortunately, they won't miss out on both, because only Chelsea can jump them. But they would miss out on Europa if Chelsea leapfrog them. So that would be kind of amusing.
I'd love to see Tottenham get Europa Conference personally. It's hardly any money, and it's just a distraction, from the league. I think it's kind of the worst case scenario is getting that Europa Conference League. I wouldn't want to be in it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think from our point of view, it's probably better for us that Chelsea get it, because I think Chelsea are more of a serious team than Tottenham.
They're coming together.
I think so, and they're going to spend big again. They've just we could talk about this actually. I don't know if you saw this, but after selling a hotel to themselves for £190 million, they've now sold their training ground to themselves for £200 million. The training ground one has not been ratified yet. It hasn't gone through, but they're trying it. There is ways to get around FFP, and then there's ways to get around FFP, huh?
Well, you got to kind of hand it to Todd Bowley and co. They sure have been very creative in the way they're skirting the rules. You can't make it up. But yeah, that's ridiculous. I hadn't seen that. Yeah. I'm sure they'll create a rule on that.
Yeah, after it's already done. This is the problem. This is what I said to Bernard Whammer the other week when we were talking about it. And he said, it always happens first. I said, but that's the way it works. Like the one I always like to point to is there's a law in Minnesota that you can't take a lion into a movie theater. It's actually a written down law. That means at some point someone has taken a lion into a movie theater, because if they hadn't, there'd be no reason to have the law, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Gav, it was an emotional support lion.
That's correct. He's still allowed in now, actually, because he's an emotional support lion.
Yeah, there's a bunch of crazy laws like that. I've seen one. It's like in Wisconsin, you can't walk around with like an ice cream in your back pocket or so. There's some insane.
Yeah, there's a good one in I believe it's Texas, that a single woman cannot parachute on a Sunday, which is an interesting one.
Yeah, I wonder how that came up.
And interestingly, in Sarasota, in Florida, if you tie an elephant to a parking meter, it's charged the same as a 4-wheeled car.
Wow, that's really interesting. So
yeah,
someone's
that one I actually know the basis of. Basically, the Ringling Brothers Circus is out of Sarasota in Florida, and I guess they used to tie their elephants to parking meters and not pay. So I don't know if you clamp the elephant. I mean, do you tow it?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do with an elephant?
That's a good point. I don't know what else you would do with an elephant. So just the new kits. Before we do the new kits, right. Let's do this bit first. So Sunday we are going to be wearing our current season kit, not as logic would dictate because it's the current season, but because we've got a chance at the title, and if you've got a chance at the title, you have to wear your current season kit. Whereas otherwise, you wear your next season's kit, which seems fucking bizarre to me. But yeah, so what do you think about that? Wearing this season's kit this season? That's novel, huh?
Yeah, I kind of I think the whole thing with wearing next season's kit at the end of the current season is a bit ridiculous. I get, Adidas and Nike and Puma have to maximize their revenue. But I just find the whole thing silly. I'm glad we're still staying in the current season's kit. I mean, if by some miracle we end up winning, it would be pretty ridiculous to win in next season's kit as well. So I guess I get the rule. I just find the whole thing pretty arbitrary.
Yeah, especially because next season's kit is a fucking horror show. So let's get on to this. The kit, I'm sure you've all seen it by now. It's obviously the usual red, but for some reason down the sides, it's white with blue piping. The blue piping isn't as bad as it looked on some of the early leaks. It looks like it looks like either the leaks were wrong or they've toned it down a bit because of the reaction. I know some people think that they leak these things in order to get a reaction, and maybe they did. But I'm not a fan of it. The away kit and the third kit, I don't know which way around these are, by the way. I think the black kit is supposed to be the away kit and the purpley bluey coloured one is going to be the third kit. I've got to be honest, I don't like any of them. Where are you on these noted fashion guru that you are?
Well, so my biggest problem with the home kit is how far up they bring the white. I hate that it's white shoulders, which I know is just a small detail, but our shirts are, red with white sleeves. You know what I mean? Not shoulder pads.
Yeah, my thing has always been fuck around with the away kit and the third kit as much as you like, but leave the home kit alone. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can come out with templates for the home kit. We've had the ones where it was the slightly darker red with the zigzag lightning stripes down it and that sort of stuff. And that's fine. But keep it red with white sleeves. You've got the piping. You want to change the color on the piping. I'm not 100% against that. You can mess around with the collars and stuff, but keep the colors as they should be for the home kit and then fuck with the away kit.
Yep. But one thing I will say, we discussed this a little bit earlier too, but I love that it's canon only on all three kits this year. I believe this is the first time we've done that on the home kit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but and I think it looks great. It's very clean, crisp. I love that look. I think this is they're kind of slowly getting us used to the fact that they're going to drop the crest and will be canon only.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the last time I remember it just being a canon on the home kit, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, was 89-90. It was just a canon, and then we went to the badge the next year, which is when we won the title when we only lost one game. I'm pretty sure that was the last time. I don't remember it since. I'm definitely glad that we've gone back to just the canon. It's my favorite badge. I know one of the reasons they moved away from it is because it can't be copyrighted because it's a canon. And there has to be a certain amount of unique identifiers in order to be able to copyright something. So you had that, and then when we changed the badge, what was it, 2002, when we changed to the fucking awful clip art badge that we've had since then?
Yeah, I believe so.
That was something to do. Yeah, and that was something to do with the way it appeared on screens, because that was obviously when social media was like in its infancy and the websites and stuff were coming to the fore. So they changed. So I understand why they changed it. I remember being there the day they paraded it around on a flag in front of us, and it didn't go down very well that game. It was half time against someone. I think it might have been Southampton, but I'm not 100% sure. But they walked it around the pitch, and it got a lot of lighters and bottles thrown at it as they went around. The poor people holding it up, walking around the pitch, were getting pelters, and it was nothing to do with them. But I'm definitely glad to go back to the Callan. I just think it's cleaner. It's instantly classic. You know exactly what it is. As Bob Wilson said, you walk into these away grounds and you feel 10 feet tall because you're walking in with a big cannon on your chest. And I think that is the way to go in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a much nicer look. And, look, I don't hate the current crest. I think it's just, it was very early 2000s. It looks like it's straight out of Microsoft Word art.
Yeah, it does.
And it worked for then, but I think it's been due for an update for a while. And if they just go with the canon from here on out, I am perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, and I think in the social media terms now, I think it suits it. Just the canon. I think it's better. It's like I said, it's instantly recognizable. You know exactly what it is. It fits in a square, a circle, whatever you want. So I think it's the perfect thing to go with. The away kit, just the black kit. To me, I don't think it's a horrendous kit. I want to say that it's a bit weird with the black and white kind of weird
I don't.
stitching
Yeah.
in it. I don't really understand that. And I don't think it's a bad kit in itself, but to me, I look at it and I think AC Milan away. I
Mhm.
don't think anything to do with Arsenal. I know they say it's something to do with Rocky and Righty, but I don't
I don't.
understand it.
I
And
don't need.
I asked Paz because I thought Paz might get it, and he couldn't really explain why it was anything to do with Rocky and Righty either. It's just a green and a red on a black shirt with some weird white pattern on it. I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't. I don't at all. I do like the kit, all right, except what you just brought up, that weird, like the wings, the wings on it. I think it would look a lot better without that. But yeah, it doesn't look Arsenal-y at all to me. So I don't know. And then the third kit, I've seen a couple leaks that I hate, and then I've seen a couple leaks that I kind of like. So it just kind of depends on which one's going to be correct or not. But I'm probably going to pass. I don't think I'm going to get a kit this year. Probably.
No, I don't think I'll be getting any of them either. And I am, bear in mind, I am world famous for hating every single kit that comes out, and then falling in love with it 3 weeks later. I
Oh
did
yeah,
that with the
like
black
this season's
kit.
away.
Yeah, I mean, this season's away was a bit different because I think that this season's away kit looks good on the players, right? I
Mhm.
think it looks really good on Declan Rice. It looks really good on Martin Odegaard. It looks really good on Bukayo Saka. I don't think it looks very good on fans. You've got all
Yeah.
them squiggly lines and all over it and stuff, and I just don't think it looks good on fans. So it's
Yep.
one of them kits where I do think it's iconic, right? I mean, by now I think we can say whatever happens on Sunday. If we win on Sunday, that kit becomes absolutely iconic. There's no doubt about it. We've had all them big away wins in it. Um, it becomes a kit of a kit of stature that like of which you've probably never seen before because of how different and how unique it is.
Mhm.
I just don't see this away kit becoming that no matter what we do in it. Do you know what I mean? The season
Yeah.
before with the black and the gold and the patterns behind it. And again, I didn't like that one when it come out. And then about 2 weeks later, I was like, you know what? I love that. And now I wear that shirt now, I think more than any other because you can wear it out and it doesn't necessarily look like a football shirt.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the same thing with a green one from this year that I don't have. But obviously, Pass looks like a fucking model anyway. But it looks tremendous on Pass. It obviously is not
Yeah.
going to look that good on me, but it looks brilliant on Pass. But yeah, I kind of feel the same way about that. It's almost leisure wear rather than football kit.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing for like selling shirts and whatnot. I know the black kit, the black away from last year.
That's
I
our
feel like,
biggest ever selling shirt by
yeah, I was about to
quite a
say.
distance. I think it moved
Yep.
something like 300,000 shirts, which is an insane amount of shirts.
Yep. So hopefully maybe we'll get some improved terms from Adidas or something down the line.
Yeah, I mean, look, this season's been so successful, right? I mean, we had that thing that got shared around us the other day with the money that we've made through the European TV and prize money this year compared to previous years, and it basically almost doubles the previous 4 years combined. Next year, it's going to be even bigger because there's 2 extra Champions League games because they're going to that new silly format that I think I understand now. We are apparently going to be in pot 2. And from what I understand, the pots are kind of almost irrelevant now because you play 2 from pot 1, 2 from pot 2, 2 from pot 3, and 2 from pot 4, regardless of what your rank is. It literally just decides the opponents. So obviously you'd rather be in the higher pots, but I think it kind of doesn't really matter. But we're not going to really know that until it's been going for a while because I'm reading off of UEFA's sheet and hoping I'm interpreting it right.
Yeah. And what is I've not heard anybody talk about this, but I did hear, in like February there was a chance. Did we make the Club World Cup? I thought
we had to win the Champions League to get in it.
But the new format is
we had to win the Champions League to get in it. That was our only shot, was to win the Champions League.
Gotcha.
The way it works, it's the winners of the continental Champions Leagues, right? So the Champions League, the African one, the Copa Libertadores, the CONCACAF, CCL. It's the winners from that for the last couple of years are all in, and then it's based on coefficients. And we weren't even close. The only way for us to qualify was to win the Champions League, which obviously we didn't do. So we're not in that. That's official now. We're not going to be in that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and it's a shame. I know everyone's slagging that tournament off, but I think it sounds quite fun, actually.
I do too.
I mean, at the end of the day, these clubs are going to be playing games all over the place and in America anyway. Why not have something on it?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I've never really heard anything about how much money it brings, but I mean, the revenue is probably pretty solid from it.
You've got to imagine, otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like it's as simple as that, right? Like if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't do it.
Yep.
Other thing to discuss here, Juz. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but apparently FIFA are once again looking into the idea of holding league matches abroad. So Premier League matches in the US or whatever. NBC apparently are pushing for it hard. NBC are obviously the broadcaster for the rights in the US. They've pumped a lot of money into the game. To me, this is patently ridiculous. But we've already seen it with La Liga taking games abroad. Is it going to happen? I don't know. There would be a vociferous reaction to it in the UK for sure. I mean, you saw with the Super League, there weren't protests in the streets in Spain and Italy, but there certainly were in England. So I do think that the opposition to this, if the Premier League tried it, would be probably bad enough to at very least halt it for a while. As someone who isn't a local fan as such, what's your thoughts on this? Because that's interesting, because we're obviously, not that we don't have the same perspective on it, but obviously we're coming at it from different places.
I absolutely hate it. I don't think it's right. I would, I mean, I'd love to see, more of the Arsenal. Obviously, I've been to the ground in my life, but I think it's just such a blatant cash grab. And I think in an already really, full season where players are playing, 60 odd games, it's ridiculous to have them travel to Asia or the US in the middle of a season for a game. I just think it's really, really egregiously about money.
Yeah, I mean, so I like the pre-season tours, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't paying 300 quid to go and watch a friendly, but I like the pre-season tours. I think it's great. I think it's great when Arsenal come here. I think it's great to see them in Australia, in Asia, wherever. I have no issues with them doing the pre-season tours abroad at all. I think it's great stuff for the club. It's great stuff for the fans. But there ain't no need to move league games. If you want to do it, look, I've long thought that the Premier League basically has too many clubs in it. I think the Premier League would be better off as an 18-team league where you played 34 games instead of 38. You could finish a little bit earlier, and let's be fair, after what we saw this year, you cannot tell me the Premier League would be worse off without Sheffield United and Burnley in it this season, or whoever. I would prefer to see it go to an 18-team model. And if you wanted to do that, finish the season 3 weeks earlier and run a silly cup somewhere else, then I don't have an issue with that. But taking an actual league game abroad, I think is absolutely moronic.
Yep. Yeah, me too. So I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, even Spain, Tebas, he got reamed pretty hard for it. But I know La Liga's not even close to as secure financially as the Premier League is either. So it sounds like they needed a little bit more.
They're used to being fucked with too in Spain. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that is kind of a big deal. Like, they have games kick off at like midnight in Spain. Mm-hmm. It's mad the way it works over there. The UK is just a little bit different, right? It's a different culture, and I just don't think you can get away with as much fucking around with stuff in the Premier League. I mean, this is a conversation that I had with a Man United fan last week, who's for some reason in love with Jim Ratcliffe, even though I don't quite see what it is that there is to love about the guy. Yep. But he's talking about developing an area around Old Trafford so that a game becomes an all-day event and this and that. Yep. That's not our culture. That's not going to work. I've heard this for years. I heard it when we built the North Bank in 1990. In 1992, I heard all this about how it was going to transform the way people went to matches. The UK culture is you get up on a match day, you either go to the cafe or you eat breakfast at home, you go to the pub, you meet your mates, you go into the ground, you watch the game, you leave the ground and you go back to the pub. Right? Mm-hmm. That is our culture. That is the way it is. This idea that fans are going to hang around inside a ground 3 hours before or 3 hours after the game or hang around at a complex.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen. And I don't think this is a case of foreign owners not understanding British culture, because like Ratcliffe's English for all, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously he's a tax exile, but he's English for all intents and purposes. This is rich people not understanding working class people, is what
Yep.
it is. I just wouldn't be interested in that because it's not my culture. I didn't grow up that way. I'm not interested in an 8-course meal watching a game behind glass. It's just not for me. And it's not for any of my mates who go to Arsenal, West Ham, Spurs, even Leyton Orient every week.
Mhm.
It's not for them either. I just think there's a culture gap that they don't understand. And I think that maybe is what drives this kind of, it's an insane cash grab, right? Like you said, it's an insane cash grab. And I think it's driven by the fact that they don't understand who their audience are. And that's what gets them into trouble. It's what got them into trouble with the Super League.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's beautifully said. Obviously, I can't speak too much to English culture, but I see that. I think it works pretty well. Like in the U.S., I think people do like to make more of a day of it. But yeah, there just seems to be a big disconnect with what these wealthy club owners think is a good idea and what match-going fans actually want to do. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd think
the US sporting culture is just different, right?
Mhm.
And I know there's areas where it's not true. The closest thing to football really is college football and the SEC.
Yeah.
The Southeastern Conference, where with Tennessee and Georgia and Florida, that kind of is the closest thing that you will get to it. But sports in America really is seen as more of a day out. It's why they charge these like their ticket prices in the US for one NFL game is the same as a season ticket in the UK in some cases. It's more of a family day out. Like you'll go to games, and I regularly go to NFL games, and you'll go to games, and I'll go to a Miami versus Green Bay game, and there'll be someone wearing a Dallas Cowboys shirt in the stands. That's just the way it is over here. You go in the team shop and you can buy other team shirts in the team shop because they've got the one marketing deal, right? The marketing deal is for the league, not for the individual teams. So Miami will get the same revenue through selling a Washington Redskins shirt. Apologies, I didn't mean that. Washington Commanders shirt as selling a Miami Dolphins shirt. So they've got the revenue sharing thing going on that we don't have. And it just isn't in our culture. I mean, Colin Kaepernick, the San Francisco 49ers quarterback back in the day, was pictured on a boat in Miami wearing a Miami Dolphins hat. And he actually did get asked a question about it. And he said, well, it matched the shorts I was wearing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's acceptable here. In the UK, that is not acceptable. You couldn't have an Arsenal player walking around wearing a West Ham shirt because it matched his trainers. It just wouldn't work like that. The culture is just different.
Yep. Yeah. It is really interesting. There's just again, because it's kind of a conglomerate. I don't know, for lack of a better word. It is really weird how it totally kills a lot of the intense rivalry aspect of the sport that you only, like you said, you only really see in college sports here.
Yeah, I think the distances as well in the NFL. Do you know what I mean? Like there's 50 states, but there's only 32 teams. Florida's got 3 of them. But a lot of the time, your closest rival's 800 miles away. So how much of a rivalry can it really be? I mean, with one of the conversations I had with an Arsenal fan on Arsenal America he was saying to me he didn't understand how a Spurs fan could be that bothered about Arsenal winning the title. And I said to him, that's because you haven't gone to school with these people. You haven't gone to work with these people. You don't sit next to these people on a train. That's the difference right there. The rivalries, especially in the UK, more than anywhere, because there's like 15 professional clubs in London. So you are so jammed in together. That's how the rivalries build. And it goes back so far, like West Ham and Millwall. People look at that and go, they're on the opposite sides of London. Millwall are a South London club. West Ham are East London. Like, how do they even think? The rivalry goes back to the days on the docks. There's the docks by Millwall and the East Ham docks. That's where it started from. Like, and that's crazy. Southampton and Portsmouth. The reason Portsmouth calls Southampton fans scummers are because they broke the picket lines when they were striking on the docks. So it's these rivalries go back an awful long way. And I just think sometimes the culture is just completely misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Hey, real quick, I know we're kind of low on time. There's a delicious bit of irony. I don't know if you saw this, but do you know what the Bundesliga top scoring trophy looks like?
It looks like our badge.
Yeah, and you know who is Bundesliga top scorer?
Harry Kane is about to be holding up a massive cannon, the only trophy he's ever won.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's just so. I mean, it's great irony, honestly, and so I'm really happy to see that. I can't wait for the pictures.
Yeah, it's absolutely delicious. I saw someone else tweet that our only hope of stopping Manchester City is that they sign Harry Kane in the summer. Which I thought was kind of funny. All right, well, listen, let's leave it there, mate. All the best for Sunday. Let's cross our fingers, cross our arms, cross our eyes, cross everything you've got, and hope that we don't see that podium being taken away. Let's hope it's being set up in the middle of the Emirates pitch for Martin Odegaard to lift that trophy come Sunday afternoon. So thanks again for tonight, mate, and I will speak to you next week when we go back through everything that happens.
All right, sounds good.
All right,
Bye, Gav.
Bye-bye.